I clicked the wrong button. Hello! My face was like, oops. Because I was clicking like, I was like, what's button 2? I was like, that should do it. I'm like, wait, no, that's not the right button. That's the button. Okay, yeah. So, hello! Hello all.
Finished Onyx Storm, my goodness.
Oh, I sped read it the past couple days. Yeah.
So I've made a list so that I could remember everything I wanted to talk to you about because I had a lot of thoughts when I finished.
Okay.
Like, I can't say anything yet.
That's like the first time where you have finished reading a book before I have, and where we've both been into it.
Like it. I want to go back the other way.
It's okay. The people of Tome have chosen, and apparently I'm reading Crescent City next. So we'll be back into our routine soon.
That's funny.
I'm still waiting to see if anyone on Threads comments on it. But yeah. Apparently 6 people have chosen. Of the 6 people that have voted, all 6 of them chose Crescent City, and the other 2 options both have 0. So I'm like, oh.
I think they've chosen.
They have chosen. Yeah, they have most definitely chosen. I'm gonna look and see.
I'm gonna be finishing this up, I hope, and then I'll be polling everybody too. So, and then we'll see which book I read next, because I legitimately can't decide. So.
Yeah.
All right, Onyx Storm. So my first question that I didn't want to forget to ask you was, I've heard people mention that they felt like it had pacing issues, or it was scattered and all over the place and things like that, and I enjoyed it, and I was wondering if, like, I enjoyed it so much that I just didn't see the issues with it. And I know we talked about this a little bit before the live stream. So you had some interesting things to say.
For one, I call those people nitpickers. They're nitpicky readers that they nitpick the plot. They nitpick how the character acts in this one particular situation. They nitpick on the timing of this one particular thing. They nitpick on the response of this one character, or the fact that this one particular line doesn't fit up with something else that's said 2 books earlier. And it's like, what's the point? Enjoy the book. And it's like, also, what's the point of creativity if we're going to force writers to write to a textbook plot pacing? What's the point of creativity? What's the point of individuality? What's the point of adding the writer's personality into a book and their thoughts, their pacing, their enjoyment? Because writers are also readers. I'm sorry, but many times, and you can even say this personally yourself, writers write what they enjoy reading. And it's and big people on Book Talk, and the reason why I've completely deleted TikTok and I refuse to be a part of the Book Talk, there's certain people that want to criticize what other people read, or nitpick what other people read, or just essentially just talk down what people enjoy reading. And it's like, if you didn't like the fact, and I honestly, I would say, I noticed that how do I word this? She did not focus on the classroom setting hardly at all. I don't know if that was in response to so many people saying that the classroom bits were boring, or what. I assume that's what it was, that she had gotten, had that, or if she had, and we were also talking about this, I feel like she had a specific theme or goal and planned for this particular book. I think that she wanted to plant some Easter eggs, plant some hints. And part of me wants to go back, now that we essentially... Okay, by the way, before we go any further in this is a completely spoiler-filled live stream. Completely. I put it, even in the description, I said that if you have not read this book, this is warned. It is a heavy, heavy spoiler episode. So if you have not read the book, stop, read it, come back. Okay. Yeah. Final warning. Spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Okay, if you get spoiled, it's on you. I warned you. Okay, so
we did warn you.
Here's my teacher voice coming out. Like, if you fall out of that chair, I told you to quit leaning back in it. If you fall out of the chair, I will not feel sorry for you because I warned you ahead of time. I said that so many times this week. I am like such teacher mode. Like, I'm sorry. That's just me, the teacher, coming out. Like, if you fall, I'm not going to feel sorry for you because I told you to sit down. Anyway.
That's funny.
But I feel like her intention for this book was to plant Easter eggs about the questions that I wanted answered that didn't get. That's where I feel like seeds were planted for the questions that I wanted answered, but the things that you were wanting were essentially developed in this book. So,
yeah.
And
it's like
honestly,
you were waiting for a harvest, and I was like ready for
So like,
planted and watered.
Joanna was wanting, in the book, Joanna's main goal, I assume, at least from what I've gathered, her goal for this is she wanted a purpose for Xaden and Violet's romance. She wanted to see why they love each other so much, why they're so devoted for each other. And we got that. We got so many interactions. We got all of the conversations. We got the determination that regardless of what happens to him, she is always going to stay by her hot side. She's not going to kill him, ever. Like, that is off the table for her. And by the end of the book, that's pretty solid. And like, again, the more I think about it, the more I like our conversations before the stream, I agree with you. Like, the reason why, again, spoiler, we are discussing last chapter content. Anyway, so like last chapter content, we're talking about it now. Okay, so again, I think part of the reason, and I could honestly, part of the reason I think, the more I think about it, and to be fair, I finished this book like an hour and a half ago, so I'm still processing everything pretty heavily.
Yeah.
Like, and so, which I honestly, that's why I kind of wanted to live stream tonight, so I could like work through it in my head with you. But
that makes sense.
Like, I can see like her losing, like her having her memory wiped is even proof of the fact that she refuses to kill Xaden. She refuses to lead them to Xaden to kill Xaden, to get rid of him, because she will not lose the hope that she firmly believes that he will always be him. And there's nothing that's going to fully take him away. And if that ever happens, then she is going with him. That is the determining factor of her in this story, in their relationship. And as they go through this, they're forced to not be physical in certain situations. They're forced to be careful. They're forced to like pine over each other rather than like lust for one another, rather than just jumping straight into bed like animals. Like they're forced to go on these missions and to go to these different places and spend time together without just being stuck in a classroom or in a bedroom. You know what I'm saying?
And it honestly gave a lot of opportunities for world building too. But I would say, you remember how Riddick asked her what's your
political
line?
building too.
Politics said, if too. If he ever hurts me. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, what is your line? And she's like, if you ever hurt me. And I honestly think that she had Imogen erase her memory because she didn't want to remember that he had gone full venom and that he had crossed that line potentially. Yeah. And it, like, you know what I'm like.
Does she? So okay, question. Does it say whether she remembers the cloud, the black cloud, or not in that final chapter?
I don't know. I don't remember. I don't think so. I don't know if it says.
Does it ever fully addresses that? Because that's my thing. Like, if Imogen fully erased all of her thoughts on what happened, and she has no idea that this cloud, I don't think he would delete that. I'm thinking more along the lines, he told her what he was going to do, and they had Imogen erase her memory so that way the people on the continent at Basgaev couldn't get information out of her.
Page 526, it says, the wall of shadows, my heart sinks, what the F is happening, how did I get here?
Yeah.
So, like, the last thing she remembers is the wall of shadows. So there's 12, it erased her memory from the last 12 hours, but she remembers the wall of shadows.
So, that's where I think Xaden I think she has explicit instructions from Xaden on what to do in Tenendor, and I think they have a plot planned. I think they have something planned out in those 12 hours that they have things put into place that he was going to send her back, and he has things in mind for what he wants accomplished or what he's going to end up doing. And I imagine he'll probably come back at some point in the next book, and and she'll have to essentially kind of rediscover things probably, or follow clues like we did in this book to, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. One of the thoughts that I had, though, and that other people have shared, they mentioned missing dragon eggs, and that one society of warriors wanted dragons in order for an alliance, and so people are suspecting that maybe her and Xaden gave the dragon eggs to get the secret army during that 12 hours as well, for an alliance, for some sort of a secret alliance. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Like, everything that I'm talking about is purely speculative.
I don't know. I don't see Tarn and Andarna allowing that either.
That's the thing. I don't, because it goes against the Empyrean. So Xaden could be doing it on his own, though, or doing it for
Andarna and the seventh species. How do you spell the Irid? Is that what it was? Irid.
Yeah.
Like, I could see them taking some of the eggs because they're invisible. Nobody can see them.
Why he took her or why she's back? You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, like, we know why she left was for him to kind of show her, raise her in their ways in order for her to kind of decide for herself. So, but the thing is, I wasn't expecting her to come back that quickly. Like, I had kind of determined, like, she's going to be gone for the rest of this book, and she may come back at some point in the next book or the final one. That's what I had kind of expected. Her to come back is like this big bang at the end of the series. That's what I expected. Now, whether it was just her, because it did say the ward stones were fired up again in that new location, didn't it? It mentioned something about the ward stones. I thought it did.
It probably did. Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what page it was at, but I remember seeing it. So my thought was, well, if the stones are activated again, if more stones are activated, that means that it's more than just Andarna.
Mm-hmm. And that they came
which
back
tells
for
me that those missing eggs very well could be the Irid taking eggs.
Could be. That's another distinct possibility. Speaking of Andarna leaving, so one of my things was after it happened when she was going through that depressive state, I was my brain before the ending, I was like, did her leaving really feel like in character to Andarna? I know she wanted to know her people, but like the whole book she was talking about how her and Violet are one. Yeah. And I was like, to just abandon her like that, I was kind of upset. And I was like, do we think that the other dragon did it like when the bond was cut? It kind of seemed like Andarna was surprised, so I don't think she did it. And I'm
you think the other dragon cut it for her?
I think he cut it without her knowing, because like the way it described her looking at Violet, like looking back, like she was surprised. Yeah. That
and I think the other dragon, if that's what happened, I could see the other dragon have enough respect for Andarna to wait, like Andarna's love for her human, that he would wait until the human give permission or say, I want you happy. I could see him having enough respect for Andarna, not so much for Violet, but having respect enough for Andarna to wait until Violet give permission or give her blessing before he did it. Yeah. And it's like, but I also think I could see that being a thing. I could see because the Irid they're almost like raised up to this like legendary status, to the point that even, what was her name? I always forget her name. Theophany. Like even she was awestruck. Like she full on stopped fighting and was just in pure awe of Andarna. So it's like they have boosted these dragons' status to legendary status. And so it's like they have to be more powerful than your common dragons. And part of me thinks, I wonder if she wasn't manipulated into breaking the bond. That the other dragon, because he was older, more mature, didn't in some way manipulate her into going through and breaking that bond. But I honestly, I could see your explanation being a little bit more likely than that. But like that also crosses my mind too.
Yeah, it says that she's like, I want you to be happy and safe and thriving. I want you to live. My voice breaks, even if it's not with me. And
Yeah.
later on, and Darna tries to say, I do not know how she starts. A shrieking whistle sounds in my head, and then only silence remains. I reach for the bond and find a wall, then nothing. And Darna whips her head toward Leothin. It's like, and Darna was in the middle of speaking when that whistle happened, and the bond was cut.
And then Darna looks at him. And then she doesn't really look at Violet. She turns to look at him like, what did you, like, what did you just do? Yeah. I can see that.
That's why I thought
and I think that is it Leodin? I always
pronounce his name.
Yeah, or something like that. Leothin, something like that. Like, and he did say that she would have been from his riot. So I think he had enough. I think he had enough respect for Andarna to, like we said, like to wait for Violet to give her blessing.
Yeah.
And he's just like, but Andarna's not going to be able to make this decision with a clear head, so he's going to take like responsibility and make the decision for her, because she, quote, in his head, she's not within her right mind to make that decision on her own. Yeah. Like, I could see him taking, like, a parent type... It's almost like a parental decision, where if you have, like... Yeah. If you have somebody that is, like, struggling and is not within their right mind, you have, like, even in real life, you have people that make, like, big time, like, life decisions for people, and there are situations where they make official decisions for people, even though those people are technically adults, if they're not within their right mind. And I could see him being like, well, she's been raised outside of our, way of life, so she's compromised in a way. So I could easily see him breaking that bond because he feels like she has been compromised and can't make that choice on her own. Now,
well, it's like if you have a child that hangs out with the wrong crowd and you cut off their friendship so they can't hang out with the wrong crowd anymore, from his perspective. So.
Well, and something else too is Andarna's been known to not follow authority and not listen to authority, and she's been with Tarn for ages. And she's been with Tarn and Violet for a decent chunk of time now. So she's not going to take kindly to this random dragon that's supposedly her family just coming in, breaking her bond, and stealing her away. Like, she's not going to...
Why she came back?
Oh, yeah. I believe that's why she came back. Because she wasn't just going to abandon Violet. And I think that she probably had to fight through her own... had to fight her way back herself. I would be interested to get Andarna's point of view on what happened after she left. Yeah, because I think 100%. There's a lot that happened with her that we didn't see in order for her to get back there.
Yeah. So that had been my next talking point, is like, what do we think happened and why did she come back and all that side. So speaking of multiple POVs though, I'll skip my next one to this one. What did you think of like the added POVs? Did it feel like epic fantasy? And what did you think of like Rhiannon and Imogen's POVs? And I'll share my thoughts after you share yours.
I feel like Imogen's POV humanized her in a way that we haven't got before. She's always been this stoic, very masculine female that's very warrior masculine type female. And I feel like it humanized her. And I appreciated that. Like, I can't remember the exact, because I can't remember the exact chapter with Rhiannon. I feel like we saw her as a leader for the first time, and that was like making those leader type decisions. And I thought that was cool. But like, Imogen's definitely sticks out to me because it feels like it humanized her. It definitely, it added a different side of her character that we have never seen before.
Yes. And I really liked her and Garrick. A lot of people are already shipping her and Garrick.
Yeah.
So, and Dane and Salone.
Yes.
Where did that come from? Oh my gosh, that moment where he's like, look at me. and he's like, focus on me, and then
Yeah.
he's like, you're not gonna kill me, like or like something like,
I
you're gonna hurt me, I know you will, kind of something along those lines. It was like,
mhm.
oh my gosh, I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting that.
Yeah. I also I thought Zayden's POV and his having Zayden's POV at the end, I think that mirrored Iron Flame really good. And I knew that there was something when we get POVs of him, it always has something to do with Venom, if I remember correctly. Unless there's a POV of him in this one, in the first one. I can't remember if there is or not. But like the last time we had a POV of his, he became Venom. And it's like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So it's like
Yeah.
I think honestly I like when you mentioned epic fantasy. I could very easily see this being a transition novel from strictly romantasy into epic fantasy, because
Yeah.
the last one we just had Zayden's POV. This time we have 3 separate POVs, and it goes back and forth. It doesn't just do 1, 2, 3 and then ends book. It goes from Violet to Rhiannon, then back to Violet, if I remember correctly. No, yeah, back to Violet, and then it goes to Imogen, and then it goes back to Violet, I think, and then it goes to Zayden, and then it goes back to Violet again. And honestly, if you think about it, and if you
Corpse Frost and Starlight, and
Yeah.
how it added multiple POVs to kind of set up other POVs for the rest of the
and
series.
honestly, if you think about it, the next book we're going to have a situation where Violet and Zayden aren't together, but they're also not interacting with one another, because it's no longer safe for her to be in range where she can communicate mentally with him. I don't know what that's going to do with their dragons. That's another issue. But it's like, it's no longer safe for her to be in constant mental communication with him, because she could be pulled in for interrogation at any moment's notice. And then we have the same issue that we have in Iron Flame, you know, and it's like, but this time she has such a bigger title now than what she did.
And to add Zayden's POV would give us such a good insight in the Venom. We kind of need that, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, some good books always go to the villain's POV. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. And that kind of leads in.
Like logically, it makes sense too.
And honestly, that kind of leads into, remember how we made our hopes for Onyx Storm? That was one of the things that, that was one of the things that I had put on that list, was getting more from Venom's POV. And if she does that in the next book, where she consistently goes back and forth between Violet's POV and Zayden's, like, that would be cool. You know, because it's like, she's definitely setting up this whole system, this tier, like, she developed the Venom in this book too. Like, we didn't just they're not just the bad guys. We learn that they have signets. We learn that they have some form of like bond with their wyverns, other than just, you know, being an animal. We learn that there's a hierarchy. We learn that there's also like the system of like a brotherhood type of system, that it's like, we're getting all of these new things. And so it's like, I could definitely see her, because like, if it was just a romantasy, she would have probably stuck with just a trilogy. But the fact that she's added 2 more books into this and making it a 5-book series tells me that it started out as a romantasy, but it's building into something bigger than that.
Yeah. And I feel like, literally, like you said it all, like everything. And I feel like the next book is going to hinge on whether this series is going to be good or kind of start leaning in the disappointing kind of range.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like adding multiple POVs could help. Like, I would miss Violet, but I feel like the story could benefit from multiple POVs.
Oh yeah, I feel like it has so much. We've gotten so much growth in this book as it is, that I feel like it would do it an injustice just keeping it with Violet. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much more information and so many more plot lines that could be created, that are being introduced, that if we didn't get multiple POVs, it would just almost do it a disservice in a way. Yeah. At least in my head.
I can see that. Yeah.
I also see how the Throne of Glass benefited greatly from having multiple POVs, and it was done well. Having multiple POVs and having these different storylines going on, but they're happening at the same time, and like the whole tandem read bit is a prime example of that. How you can have multiple POVs going at the same time, and get so much more going on.
Yeah, that's the way that I write. I can't help myself. Like, it's a struggle to have to stick to one or two for me. It's hard these days.
Yeah.
But I know one of my number one expectation, yes, I wanted emotional, like, connection between Violet and Xaden. I did not expect that to happen. So my number one thing was Xaden kind of going bad. And what I did appreciate in Onyx Storm, a lot of people were like, well, he didn't do anything too bad. No, but like, you have to have
gave
it
into it
burn.
though.
And I'm not talking like a slow burn romance.
Yeah.
Like a good to bad guy transition takes time to do well. And I feel like this book was slower, but he didn't just, I'm bad now. Like, it was done so expertly well. It mirrors Anakin into Darth Vader. And you know me, I'm always going to appreciate that. Especially since Padme still believed there was good in Anakin, and Violet, like, is still kind of in denial that there's good in Xaden, kind of. Which could ultimately save him, kind of like how Padme's beliefs went into Luke, and like Luke saved his father. I can see some parallels there. So.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, but I didn't know if we wanted to go back and forth on our expectations and then go back to the other talking points. Believe me, I've got plenty.
Yeah, no, we can go back and forth on our overall expectations.
So what was your second one?
Sorry, an adultish moment where I couldn't. What is this?
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay. I need to know if I need to have my personal property papers turned in before I go for my taxes, which is probably a stupid question, but I never have thought to ask it, so I'm asking my mother. Because being an adult is hard. Anyway, okay, my I didn't really have a big order for it. I just had a list of things that I was kind of wanting, and the more I went through my list, like officially went through my list, there were several of things that I wanted that were there. Like, I feel like the more I thought about it, I think the more heavily I leaned into Violet's father and her backstory. I think the more I got to reading it, the more I was craving that. But like, before we even started, my main one, like I said, obvious confirmation on her second signet. Like, we did get that. We got confirmation of what that is. But that was kind of like a big one. Like more of an obvious one that I assumed we were gonna get, and it was pretty common, like, decided that
that was a confirmation.
Yeah.
Actually, I had a theory about that I brought up to some other Onyx Storm readers, and because some people were saying how that like seemed like not a great signet, and I was like, well, I wonder if, because the sage seemed like he was pulling Xaden into those dreams, and so I'm wondering if he was pulling Xaden and Violet into those dreams, and it wasn't actually her dream walking. But then Alicia reminded me that she dreamed about that other chick and her past, so I'm like, I don't think that theory is true. But it was just like one of those things where it's like, I wonder if the sage was the one kind of like bringing them into the dreams or whatever.
Well,
but
yeah, I don't know. Like, I could see it. I
loved those scenes, by the way. Xaden's nightmares, just all the feels.
Oh yeah. Well, and I could see it developing, and it never really give true confirmation if that's what it was. They wondered if that's what it was, but it never really give true without a shadow of a doubt, this is confirmed her second signet. Like, it never. Well, Andarna kind of did. She essentially did, because she said, well, you didn't tell her when she wielded lightning for the first time. So, like, honestly, Andarna did end up confirming it, the more I think about it.
Yeah, I guess it does seem like a confirmation.
But, like,
I'm fine with it, so.
Well, and the thing is, you can expand on that a lot. Like, it could just start by her dream walking. But I could see that developing into her using people's worst nightmare against them and like holding them in their nightmares. Because she had to wake up herself. Yes, she had to wake herself up and get him out of the dream. And to get Xaden out of his nightmare. So I could easily see that developing into something.
Yeah, and I like that it's another one of those things that this college thinks is dangerous.
Yeah.
So my next one was I wanted war, not college stuff, and I definitely wanted less college stuff.
Yeah.
Because I was so sick of that from Iron Flame, which we already talked about. She might have listened to some feedback on that. So that was one that actually did, fulfill me. That was the big one. I was like, let's have war, please. If we have to sit through any more college classes, I'm going to just riot. And
honestly, if I'm being honest, the slowest bits that I felt were when they were in Battle Brief. In this one, like those were the parts where I felt like were slow.
Yeah, there was like 2 scenes, and I felt like they were talking about current events enough that I was like, okay, just push through it.
Yeah,
just push through it. Yeah. And it was over before I really got too annoyed with it. But yeah, I did feel that as well. So. Yeah. Not that you put yours in any order, but your next one.
Okay, my next one on the list was more information on the Venom from their perspective. We didn't really get from their perspective, but we did get more information on the Venom. I think I was kind of pushing for that like multi POV thing early on, and I don't think we'll get that until maybe the second book. Maybe. But I was wanting more information on Venom, and I feel like we got more things revealed about them. Yeah. So I think if that was somewhat confirmed, I guess. Somewhat fulfilled.
Half fulfilled.
Yeah.
I know one that I liked the idea of is Xaden and Jack, like, growing up together or having some sort of something and having something to do with that, but there was I feel like Jack was underutilized. Like, there was one scene where she went to question him, and he revealed a lot of useful information, but I did feel like I was expecting more out of Jack's character as a whole.
I'm gonna jump in.
That was not there.
I'm gonna jump in and tag one off on my list as unfulfilled too, because I essentially said that for Jack to be more of a main side character instead of just a filler, and I feel like he was still just a filler. So that's not my official next one on the list. I'm just saying I'm going to just check mark that one off because you just mentioned it. So it's like essentially the same. Yep. So, all right.
Your official next.
Okay, my official next one for Ann Donner to become more center stage as a character, be more of a key into the plot, which she definitely was in this book.
I loved that Adarna was so involved.
Yes.
And I loved there was a lot of mind speaking, and there was a lot of like, we really got her character.
Okay, so hear me out. Were you kind of hoping that her wing would get healed when she left to go with them? I want Violet to be able to ride Andarna. Because I'm still not convinced that Rebecca won't try to kill off Tarn.
I don't know. I don't care one way or the other. If it heals...
Well, to be fair, honestly, the more I think about that, what I just said, the more I think about that, Tarn was Rebecca's pick. And the editors wanted Violet to be with Andarna. Rebecca wanted her to be with Tarn, and so the compromise was for her to have 2. So I
avoided publishers' demands for half a second.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
I'm over.
Yeah, but it's like, honestly, the more I think about that, I don't see her killing off Tarn. I think that was kind of funny of me to be freaked out about that. But considering that Tarn was Rebecca's pick for Violet's dragon, I don't see that happening. I was
still concerned about that. But the moment that Andarna left, when Tarn was there for her, it completely switched. I was like, okay,
I was so... honestly, I agree with you. Yeah. And that's where it's like, that when she said that that Tarn's song was Long Live, his Taylor Swift song was Long Live, I was so focused on the fact that the bridge talks about death, but I'm like, literally... Tarn was there for her when she was essentially in a depressive depression episode, like he was about to die.
Like,
And she was
yeah.
comatose there for a while. She just was just existing. And it's like, I'm sure we've all been to that point where the thoughts crossed our mind like, I'm just going to exist. I'm not going to, there's no point in enjoying this. I'm just going to exist. And that, like, at least for me, like, I've had moments in my life where I've essentially been like that. Like, that thought had crossed my mind, and that's why that point got me. I was hysterical, ball, like, actually crying.
Yeah.
Like, like type cry. I was actually, and it's like, and I think that, and that's why I marked on my Fable, where you can mark certain things, I marked that the characters were relatable.
Right.
Because that feeling of just laying in bed existing, whether it's like losing someone you love, or, you know, like, or even just a huge change in a setting or a situation, or like a hardship that's now been placed on your shoulders, like that feeling of just wanting to lay in bed and just exist but not really thrive is so relatable.
Yeah. For me, the abandonment, when she was like, she's gone.
Yes.
She's gone. She left us. She left us.
Oh my gosh.
I could feel her panic.
Yeah.
And like, I know what abandonment feels like. And that repetitive, they left us. They left us. They left us. That, like, you can't get over the idea that that person just left you like that.
Yeah.
And for me, I had a big issue with Andarna for a while. Like, I don't know why she came back, but we'll kind of get to that later.
Yeah.
But like in the next book, but like that hit me hard. Like, so it's so well written though.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Expertly written.
Yes.
That to make us both feel so much.
And we both felt differently. Like, literally, we were both emotional in that point in the story, but for different reasons. That's really interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so my fourth one, which again for me, I wrote them as they came to my mind, so it surprised me that Violet and Xaden's romance like came forth for me. But Xaden and Violet, why they love each other? Like, besides the idea that you guys just love having sex with each other, like, why do you actually love each other? That was the big thing that needed to be fixed, and I feel like I was so annoyed with the first half of the book because it was like, let's get physical, quoting the 80s song. But the latter half, when they went to go on the islands, was the best thing that could have happened for their relationship. And from then on, I was like, okay, it's been addressed. You guys actually love each other. There's an emotional connection. So I would say that one for me actually did get fixed. And it's boosted them up on my ranking list. Like, they may actually be better than Rhysand and Feyre, depending on if they continue down this emotional trajectory or if they go right back to kind of just wanting to, you know, get spicy all the time.
Yeah.
So, but for this time, that's got fixed.
Yeah. And thinking about the relationship, like, my thing is, like, did they secure an heir in those 12 hours?
I know, I'm wondering. And speaking of spicy stuff, random theory, because of her dream walking and the fact that they're separated in the next book, some people think we're gonna get some spicy dream scenes.
What? Like, I could definitely see, I'm like, I didn't think about that, but I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't even think about that, but yeah. I need to quit yelling.
We're gonna dream walk together.
These poor elderly couple are gonna hear me yelling. I need to chill. I need to calm. I need to control myself a little. Okay. My next one. My next one, which I feel like was not accomplished in this, was more information on Violet's father. That's like 3 negatives. Like, I've discussed
family history, dad explanation, family history details.
Yeah, that was a big no. Like, we didn't get hardly any of that. And I think that's why, like, my initial reaction was kind of
like a really simple, quick answer, and I did feel like it didn't overly disappoint me, but I did feel like, oh, okay, that's all that is, like, nothing big, you know, like.
I think there has to be more.
I feel like there's more.
There's more to the whole Dune thing. There's more to that. I don't think she was simply touched by Dune. I don't think that's like simple
theory.
Yeah.
Some theories that are running around is that the Venom, because they drain, like, they are using Malek's power, who is the god of death, and so they're thinking that she has some sort of power of life, like with Dune, and that it's going to be a Dune versus Malek, like the Venom or death. She represents life kind of vibe. I don't know how true that is, but people, you know, love to speculate, so that's
I could see that.
I've heard.
Yeah, yeah, I would say
Yeah.
that's like a big old hole, 3 or 4 minus signs. I don't feel like we got much at all, and I think that was my main hope for the book, was to learn more about her and not so much develop their relationship. Like that's definitely a bonus. Like I'm glad that
Yeah.
this book definitely needed to develop their relationship. I'm not discrediting that. I think in my head, my main goal for this was to at least, I was wanting to learn more about her as a character, because
Yeah.
there was so
And I
many,
can
because
understand that. Like for me,
in the
my
first,
main
like the
one was
first two
Aiden going
books,
bad.
for it to be
Mm-hmm.
book 3, there are still so many questions just about her past, that are still
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
unanswered. And that's my thing. It's like we're in book 3 and I still have questions about who she is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's
And
gonna
it's
have to
like,
be addressed next book
oh,
for
it
sure. I feel
almost
like
has
for
to
I can
be.
totally see the difference there because like for you, your main thing wasn't answered. My main thing was Aiden going bad,
Hmm.
and so it's like my thing was satisfied, yours wasn't, so you're still left with questions.
Yeah.
Um, so I can totally get that. So my next one was obviously that one, but we're gonna go to the next one after that. Is why bring Brennan back? I feel like bringing him back to life still
That was
has
my
no
next one
purpose
too.
yet.
Like,
What did it do? Like, why was that worth it? His return needs to be impactful, or the mom good and the brother bad, him betraying her.
yeah.
You know, he was just like, he was there for like 2 scenes and then he wasn't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, Brennan still is not like
Yeah.
Jack. Like,
My
they're
na-
filler
my
characters
next
for a
one,
purpose.
that was also my next one, for Brennan's return to be useful and impactful. And he's just there.
Yeah.
He prevented people from dying. That's literally all he's done this book.
Like, Dane had a
He
bigger
said
purpose,
he
which,
said
can
saved
we
his
just
sister,
say
and
Dane's
yeah.
redemption?
Oh yeah,
Oh, I
Dane,
love
and that
Dane's
was my
redemption.
last one. Was the Dane redemption bit? That was my last one on my list, and I
Yeah.
feel like he
My last
definitely has
one was
redeemed
character.
himself.
My last one was I actually wanted character this. Like I wanted somebody to die, like for all of this to have like some sort of
Yeah,
impact. And I felt like we didn't get that. I was kind of disappointed that there wasn't more like
yeah.
Andarna leaving was the big emotional point, but on the other hand it's like okay, every book has had a big character death at the end like the mom in the last one, so I can
Hmm.
get why you wouldn't be
Yeah.
repetitive. But
But
like
I
like
feel like her.
when Imogen lost her,
Yeah.
everybody's talking about how I felt nothing for that death. Like I felt nothing when she was dying. So I feel like it
Well,
didn't
and
have as much impact.
I think it was more of, I honestly feel like if we had like a, a meaningful character death on top of the horrific response to Andarna leaving, I feel like that would have been almost like logic. And again, it's a fantasy book, so you don't expect like real life logic to exist too much. But like in my head, that would there Violet realistically probably wouldn't be able, like if Mira were to have died, I feel like that would have pushed her over the edge.
Yeah, I
She
can
would
see
not
that,
have
especially with
recovered from
Zayden
that.
leaving.
But it's like, and
Like
that's
with
where
the Zayden ending
I
too.
guess for me, I was kind of in that sense, I was kind of satisfied because it was different from the last one. Like we don't just have like a series of like Liam type characters that just get offed off every book. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't.
Yeah, like
It's
Liam and then
it's
her mom.
breaking the
Yeah,
pattern. It's a breaking the pattern, but in a way, we still get that sense of like unexpected. You know,
yeah, I can see
I
that.
just
I
I
feel like for
didn't.
me, and I normally I'm the person to agree with that because I spot
Yeah,
patterns really
yeah.
easily, and I don't like repetitive things. I feel like for me when I read this though, it was like, oh okay, well like I was shocked that Mira got her throat slit
I
at first, and I was
what
like,
I
okay,
think.
Brennan's gonna save her, and I
Yeah,
had no doubts that she
yeah,
was gonna be saved. So saving her was kind of predictable too,
yeah.
but I definitely
I
see both
didn't.
sides on that.
Can I be honest with something? I didn't want Andarna to come back.
You wanted Andarna to stay gone.
Yeah, at least through
I
this
feel like
book.
it
Like
had no
it
purpose.
was it
Like
was
you know, like I can see.
it discredited how emotional she got when Andarna left.
Yeah,
And
it's like,
it's
oh, okay,
like,
she's back 2 seconds later, so
leave,
what's the
yeah,
big
and like,
deal?
and
You
it's
know,
like, leave her gone until like mid, like
well, you miss her.
honestly, leave her gone until the final book. Have her come back at the end and have like being like a mature dragon that comes in and like changes the game one last time. But it's like, what's the point of Violet grieving and like going through this comatose state only for Andarna to come back a couple weeks later?
Part of me thinks that like the depression thing was more of a oh that's the effect of you losing your dragon and not
Oh,
necessarily like
yeah,
I miss her kind of grief, and to me, I appreciated it more for the
Yeah.
grief side,
Yeah,
not
I did.
necessarily the technical
Well, no.
effects and
Well, no, and
details.
it's like
You know,
I'm not
like I
I
see
don't
both
mean
sides.
to for it to sound like I was being technical there, but it was like
No, I know that. I'm just
because I
that was
I
my
definitely
thought,
agree with
honestly.
you that the only reason why she didn't die there is because Tarn literally forced himself down the bond to the point where that was all she could focus on, all she could feel. Like he forced her to focus on him just so she wouldn't die of grief right there. Like, and I
Yeah.
think that's important for the reader to see that that's honestly, think about it, that's how Liam felt at the when he died.
And then knowing that he was dying,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, like it's like,
that
and that's
hurt.
where it's like we're getting that, like I getting that inside thoughts. Like it was definitely important. I think I was so
Yeah,
glad
it
she
was
included it.
important.
I was
And I
like,
wonder if there's a bigger reason too why she wanted to show that for like the future books. Like
could be.
some reason why we had that moment where Andarna leaves, so we know what it feels like, even if she left for a short time. Like we needed to know what that felt like to lose your dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Some significance there
Yeah.
through the future,
Yeah.
you know.
I just still felt
But
like Andarna shouldn't have come back until the beginning of the next book. If
I can
anything,
see
if
that.
she
It
didn't
felt
want
like
Andarna, if she didn't want
her
Andarna
coming
gone very
back didn't
long,
have an impact.
have her come back like towards the beginning of book 4. Don't have her come.
In a blaze of
You know what
glory.
I'm saying? Yeah, like, and
Yeah.
and it's like if you think about it, Zayden was going to snap regardless. So what's the point of bringing Yandarna back if Zayden's just going to snap anyway?
Yeah. Well, I know. I thought it mentioned that like Tarn is out of like commission or something. Like something's going on with Tarn, which we can get to theories about that later. And so I'm wondering if she had to bring Andarna back because Tarn's
He had to go into
not
like a
gonna be
sleep
there.
type thing.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering if there was
Yeah,
like
that's true.
you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, I
we
could see
need
that.
Andarna because she's not gonna have a dragon type
But
thing.
then at the same time, unless they magically healed her, which it doesn't really say either way, they could have been where they helped her wings recover and healed her wing. And when
Yeah. Did
she
it
was
say
healed, she
specifically?
came back to help. Because that's my thing. Is like, how did she get back so fast, too? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Well, it's like he needs, yeah, and Darna clarifies he needs a cycle of rest to recover. And then she's like, recover from what? What we never get an answer. So I'm thinking she needs some sort of dragon in her head to
Mm-hmm.
communicate with while Taryn is
Yeah,
out of
that's true.
commission. Okay, multiple POVs. Zayden's turn to the dark side, we already talked about that. So we talked about Imogen and Garrick. Okay, so Violet nearing burnout, like the fight and the flying and the magic and like the
Mm-hmm.
whole fight at the end was like so amazing.
Yeah.
And the description specifically of how the magic works and how she brings it forth. Like I'm a big magic builder in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
my fantasy books, so like my brain was analyzing that.
Yeah.
And I loved the description of her when she was burnt out. Like I'm pretty sure I got hot too because it's just like
Yeah.
that feeling of it just burning and burning.
Uh-huh.
Like that was one of my thoughts that I had to bring up because it's just like
Descriptive,
it was
for
epic.
sure.
And I feel like Violet finally getting to be a boss girl, but like
Well,
in a
and the
way that's
fact
not
that
threatening was like so cool.
and the fact that she, because like she had almost that orb had almost become a crutch for her. Like she felt like she had become comfortable with just that, satisfied with just that, and she was forced to let that go and just use her power. Like she like, and
Yeah.
it wasn't like, oh, I don't know if I can hit people this time. That wasn't her goal. Like she couldn't afford to second guess whether she was going to hit her target or not. She just had to do it. And that's where I think a lot of it's like character growth for her, because
Yes.
like, and that's where it's like it's going to be hard to see her like, and I think part of the reason why Rebecca had her like marry Zayden and become the Duchess, I'm assuming that's what's going to happen, she's going to be the Duchess, would be purely because she's pulling Violet out of that student like job,
And
like
into like
and
yeah.
role, out of that student role and into more of like a leadership type role.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that could be really interesting and like a new plot point for
yeah,
like, the
and
next
it's
book.
like a new twist on the
like a new
book,
direction.
on the next book. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I have to read this note because I just said Zayden's POV is everything. Everything. Feels him, Sagel, everything. So you can tell, because I wrote this right after I read it, so I was like, I gotta get all my thoughts so I can tell Hannah when she finishes.
Yeah.
And
Like,
so,
and then part of my question is when he says, like, I don't know if he's wanting Sigale to leave him, because he made some kind of comment at one point, like, where's it at? Let me find it.
Will you forsake me now?
Yeah.
On page 523. Yeah, I marked that.
Yeah. It's, what do you think she meant by what is there left for you to forsake?
What is there left of you to forsake? Like, there's nothing left. Like, he gave in and went full venom, so there's nothing left for her to even forsake.
But it's like, do you think that means that she's just letting go of him completely, or that she is like, why are you asking me to forsake you? And like, what do you think that means?
Said something like, they're basically gonna. He tells her to persuade Taryn, and she's like, we will ask, and her decision will determine our fate. So, like, whatever decision was made was in those 12 hours that were missing, that whatever happened, Violet erased her memory of, that determined the fate of both Xaden, Violet, Sagal, and then they had to persuade Taryn to agree to whatever their plan was. Part of it was marrying her for Tyrandor, but I think there's more to it than... There's more to what the decision was. Yeah. And I was like, what is happening? Oh my. So there's a lot in those 12 hours that I think is going to be a big mystery plot of like unraveling what happened during those 12 hours, and that'll determine like what happened to Sagal and what the decision was.
Do you think? I wonder, because it says that Xaden left a note. Do you think he will be like sending her notes, like guiding her and leading her to a conclusion? Do you think we'll get some of that in the next book?
I think that's a distinct possibility. Now, here's the thing: since you brought up his note, don't look for me; it's yours now, right? My first thought was Tyrandor. He was talking about Tyrandor. Some people have a theory that he put his last piece of his soul, the part of him that loves Violet, into the ring, and that he's saying that the last piece of his soul is hers. Is something that people are saying. I don't think that's logical. I think he was just talking about Tyrandor, but it's an interesting thought. Yeah. You know, I love hearing all of the different theories. And
I think that could be like metaphorical. Like, it's not like she doesn't literally have his soul, but I think the part, honestly, what I think that could mean, I think that could mean that it could insinuate that he's not ever gonna fully become Venom, because and he even mentions at one point that his and Violet's bond is supernatural. Didn't he say that at one point? That it was like unheard of? I forget what page that was on, but he kind of insinuates that, and then he says that don't come looking for me, it's yours. Like, I think that's where it kind of leads into my speculation before, like, while I was reading this, is like, I don't think he's ever going to fully go Venom. He's not going to be able to, like, he loves her so much, and that bond that they have is so unique that he's not going to be able to fully turn Venom. That he's always going to be somewhat aware of her.
I don't like that. Like, I do not like him not going full Venom, but
I don't want him to, because as to this point, literally the only thing that would be left is for them to die. Because at this point, they haven't even hinted that there's possibly a way to cure him. Like,
I think that she's strongly pushing the idea that there isn't a way, because there is a way, and she's trying to, like, divert people's expectations, because we're going into it thinking, okay, they're gonna be cured, he's gonna be cured, it's gonna be a happy ending, and I think she's pushing so much no cure to throw us off, because there is a cure, and that's the obvious thing, is that there's gonna be a cure and it's all gonna be fine. And she's pushing that to try to redirect us. But to me, it's like he went like full Venom at the end of this book, except for like that last piece of him that loves Violet, because he's going to be bad, he's going to be with the Venom, he can't disobey or kill his sage. Like, he was Venom. Like, he went full on Venom at the end of Onyx Storm. It's just he has that small piece of him left, and I feel like I don't want it to be. See,
my thing is that he was still like, he wasn't himself, and it was written in such a way that who he originally was like a person in the background. It was almost going to be like almost like a schizophrenic type thing where he had someone else was taking the reins and he was in the background, but he still acknowledged and was gentle with her in that, like, that whoever he became, because it notes specifically that it was that caressed just her. It caressed her. The shadows caressed her, but he wasn't him in that moment. Like, he definitely gave in to the venom. I would definitely agree with you on that. Like, he definitely gave in and, like, passed that line.
Anakin and Vader again, I had a thought that's like, Anakin did turn into Darth Vader. He did kill Anakin, like, you know, from a certain point of view. But there was still a piece of Anakin left deep inside that eventually is what turned good. But he was Vader, and he did all these evil things because he had killed Anakin, you know. And so I think it could be one of those situations where, like, there's that last piece of him left, but, like, at the same time, that may be what redeems him. But, like, he's you know, Vin and Zayden now. And, you know, that would be kind of the story that I would want to see out of it from the next 2 books. But we've got a long time before we get there.
I think there's going to be a lot of speculation. I don't know if we'll actually get a lot of POVs from him, but I think we're going to be seeing a lot of things happen, and I think it's going to point towards Zayden being the one doing it, and I think she's going to try to point towards the direction of him being the one that's causing these evil things or doing these evil things, and there's going to be people in the background that's like Brennan or whoever, that the higher up, saying, well, this is him doing this, he's gone evil, this is him doing it, he was a rebel son, he's gone bad, you know, he's the one doing it. And I think it's going to make her second guess her resolve to say, like, you know, of him still being him. I could definitely see that being a thing. And, like, you know, I can see them playing on that whole theory of him him being gone.
And I like the idea of everybody around her telling her that it's him, and her having this denial kind of thing, and having her have to work through that. So my next big thing is, who is Zayden's brother who turned? And there's several different, like, I have my own theory, and then there's several different other theories I wanted to bring up to you. And there's one particular that has to do with Brennan and Taryn's old writer called named Nowlin, that I really actually kind of hope is the case. But I wanted to talk about those. So it mentions the people who are missing, and the people who are missing are the more than likely ones to have been Zayden's brother who turned into a Venom, because he says, how could he do this? He's seen me struggle this whole time. So people, it's more than likely Garrick or Bodhi, because they're the ones that's been with him this entire time. We know Dane, like, it could be Dane, but, like, Dane was kind of more involved with Salone and, like, the other side of it. I noted, like, my theory, and originally what I thought was it's Garrick, because from Imogen's perspective, right when she's grieving for Quinn, she notes that the stones are turning gray, and she, like, and I thought she was turning Venom when I first read that. And then
I did
Garrick
too.
shows up, and he's like, oh, the Venom are destroying the city. And so I was like, okay, it's just the Venom. But looking back on it, I'm like, he could have been...
Honestly, that's what I was thinking too. My thought was her for a split second, and when he showed up, I'm like, oh, is he draining it? Is that what's happening? You know?
Yeah.
But it's like, who was the one...
power to get around the
okay,
city,
was it Bodhi that was supposed to be the second in command that said that he was always going to be by Zayden's side? I think it's Bodhi.
I think so. Yeah,
I'm convinced that it's Bodhi.
Scenario, because here's the situation with Bodhi. Bodhi was supposed to be the heir to Tyrandor. So if he, like, Zayden sees him at the end, knows, oh crap, Tyrandor is screwed, he marries Violet.
That would explain why he marries Violet and puts her in charge. That would explain why he had did that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be, I don't think that she's just going to freely, I don't think she'll be in charge, but I don't think people are going to be happy about it.
Yeah, I'm wondering.
They are not going to be happy about this, and this is going to set up a whole nother problem for her being an unwanted ruler of this territory. Like, she's not going to be wanted by the majority, because they will see her as Basgaeth continent daughter, you know, that whole thing. And now she has to deal with Atos in a completely new light on top of all of that.
Yeah. So the Brennan Nowlin thing, A lot of people were talking about how Taryn always says, like, we do not talk about who came before, and so they're
Yeah.
thinking that Nowlin to bring, like, thinking about how Brennan didn't have enough energy to save Mira, and how if Salone hadn't been there, like,
Mm-hmm.
he wouldn't have been able to save her. So for Nowlin to save Brennan back when he was saved,
Yeah.
they're thinking that he turned Venom to save Brennan, and so when Brennan finds out about that, he may turn or side with them or whatever because he feels like loyal to Nowlin. And so
Oh.
Nowlin being like the reason why they've targeted Violet and Zayden was to get back at Taryn, and like
Mm-hmm.
how Jack wanted to bond with Taryn because Nowlin is ahead and told Jack and like wanting to go after
Yeah.
Taryn, so he's going after Violet and
Yeah.
Zayden because it's Nowlin wanting to get back at Taryn.
Yeah.
And that's why Taryn never wants to talk about it. And I feel
Yeah.
like for some reason, I hooked onto that theory and I like it. So I'm going to try not to get my expectations up, which is late at this too late. But because it explains why specifically they targeted Violet so much and like Taryn, Violet, Zayden, all that. Like
Yeah.
the Venom being kind of obsessed with that.
I don't know.
Now
In my head, I was looking at the theory. I wanted her dad to have this master plan of him giving her the journals to lead her leading her on this path towards the Venom because he was with them. That's what I wanted, and that's what I was hoping for. Is the dad to be somebody behind it.
I know that was one you were looking forward to, but I didn't really. I don't mind if her dad's there, but I didn't really want Violet to go Venom. And
no, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that she goes Venom. I don't want her to go to Venom. I'm saying that I want her dad to be Venom, and that her dad to be on this on this master plan, leading her on this goose chase on this path, in order to eventually find him. Yeah. Because in my head, like that, or I wanted Brennan to turn at the last minute, or to be like, Brennan to be somewhat involved or something. I don't know. Yeah, I want I want the family to be more involved other than just being side characters and mentioned.
Yeah. I don't know if they're ever going to be main characters, but
no, I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying that I want there to be more explanation as to why they exist in the story.
Especially Brennan, like saving him. That's why I want to know more about Taryn's previous writer, and I feel like that would connect with Brennan enough that like it would kind of give a bit of a purpose to that, even if Violet, because
that's such a story. That's such a sore subject for Tarn. Like, he won't talk about it.
There has to be a reason, though, whether it's Venom or another thing. Like, there has to be. Like, did he really just die and he just doesn't want to talk about it? But like,
I don't see that being a thing for Tarn, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so where was I at? I was like, that ending though, what the heck? Like, what the heck is going on?
Mm-hmm.
So the island hopping, like, I wanted to get like your thoughts on the cultures and the tests and like what your favorite island or islands were and like all of those. Like, that was my favorite part of this whole book. Like, I loved the islands and I loved the idea of having to go to these different places and go through these different type of tests. The whole scene where the Panthers came up and they were like the dinner and they opened up the thing and I'm like, okay, their heads are there, like the head of that one general, and Halden, and how he almost screwed things up. Like, that was almost like a Game of Thrones like moment, and I'm just like, that is like, oh my gosh, that was so intense. And then the fact that Zayden had to kill all of them at the end, and she was like, just keep your head down, I've got this, and she worked the whole situation out like a boss queen. And Zayden had to turn to like save them, like, because he got ticked that she got hurt. Like, that whole thing was like so much fun.
I know it felt very divergent-y. Like, like each of the islands was like a faction from the Divergent. Like, you had the one that was really like perfectionistic, idealistic, like everything, that, I don't know. And there's one that was a very warrior based, and I don't know, it just felt like factions almost. Like I don't know. I liked it though. It was definitely interesting. I felt like it added a new aspect of the plot and the world that we didn't really know about. But again, I felt like that whole journey was so centered on her father's journals, yet we learned nothing about the father in the process of going to all those islands. So again, part of that was a letdown because I was expecting that to lead more of like the father too.
It was mostly to find the seventh breed, though. They were hoping to find the seventh breed on one
But
of the islands, so I feel like the focus was on the seventh
they made a
breed.
huge deal about using her father's journals to do it, and that's where I'm just like, it got my hopes up to a certain
Yeah.
extent. And it was like making me think that we were going to lead in that direction, and then we never end up getting, we didn't get to where I thought we were going, which is fine. Like, that happens.
Yeah. I get that. I know the other one that I really liked was the one with Zayden's mom. Like the whole, I'm gonna poison
Yeah,
you and give
that
me
was
the
really
antidote, and you're gonna poison
I
me. Like
liked
that
that
was
one.
really suspenseful.
Yeah.
I liked Zayden's mom coming into play because I didn't know they were gonna bring his mom into
I didn't
things
either.
at all. I know
Yeah.
some people had other theories, like, oh, she's the Villain Queen and like all this weird
No,
stuff.
yeah.
I wasn't
liked that,
expecting it,
though.
and I love where it took Zayden's character because like he had to face a lot of like his past with his mom and the fact that she abandoned him in a war just to come and live at this place. And then the fact that like when Violet was trying to get him to open up, he tries to get like spicy with her, and she's like, that's not going to help anything, like talk to me. And I was like, that's what we needed. Like, and it just, and then the fact that like Garrick ate the cake and poisoned himself, I thought he was going to die. And then they go back to the cook, and then Riddick gets stabbed. I freaked out at that cliffhanger at the end of that chapter.
The fact that he starts punching the cook, I'm like, that's such a Riddick reaction. Like, escaping death, making us think he's gonna die, only to be like, psych, just kidding, you hit a part of my armor, punch this cook because, hey, don't do this to me, how dare you, wham, wham, wham. Like, literally, he starts punching this cook, and I'm like, I thought you were going to die. Why are you punching this cook? Like, stop punching the cook and address the fact that Violet is about to hyperventilate because you thought you were dead. Like, and he's just wailing on this cook. And I'm just like, okay.
You hate to sew. I'm like, okay. Yeah.
Oh my god. That made me laugh, though.
I did have side note of how much I loved the Zayden nightmare concept and how I thought it was like, at first I thought that her dream was like gonna end up where the sage in the dream was gonna be Zayden. And then the first one, I thought it was Violet dream. Yeah, I already said that. So the second one, I thought it was the beginning of the next page where I was like, this is going to be Zayden's dream. And then a couple pages later, it revealed it was Zayden's dream. I don't know why, but like, I just got so many feels that like, it was all the feels and the angst. And like, I loved the Zayden nightmare concept and the fact that she was like dream walking and stuff. I couldn't figure out the significance of the first nightmare, so it was interesting that it was she was sharing a nightmare with one of the other chicks. Like, I don't even remember the other person's name.
Yeah.
So, okay, Violet and Zayden's romance in the latter half of the book, and how we finally, like all caps, finally, like I freaked out a little bit, got an emotional connection and a real true emotional romance with each other, which we've already talked about. Dane's character and his moment with Sloane, we already talked about that. This is my exact phrasing. I was like, freaking Mira getting her throat sliced. I thought she'd be okay. And then when Brennan started dying, I was freaking out. And then I didn't know whether Sloane would pull too much energy from Dane. So I thought it was possible that she could kill Dane in the process. So like that whole situation was actually pretty suspenseful. Even though I initially thought she was going to be okay. And then she ended up being okay. It was like the process of getting there was like, okay, I'm an emotional roller coaster right now. Zayden turning for Sagal, like when they captured them in the nets, that was a pretty cool plot. And then the fact that he got so angry about that, and that's kind of what triggered him. I thought it was like his bond with Sagal is I really enjoy their dynamic.
I think it's interesting that how Zayden becoming Venom amplifies his possessiveness over the people that he loves, which makes sense because his mother abandoned him and his father died. So he's been used to keeping those few select people that he loves close. And so the fact that him being Venom is amplifying the the almost somewhat negative aspects of that possessiveness, of being possessive over those that he loves, to the point where, like, the concept of them messing with Sagal is what triggers him to push him over the edge. And it's like,
it wasn't Violet, because that was the thing we were expecting after this whole book is like, okay, he's gonna turn for Violet.
Well, and I think and there's one point where it shifts and he realizes that Violet's not a trigger of him going Venom, but she's one of the few things that will pull him out of it. Like that would there's one key point where it shifts. We start by thinking that she was the trigger that triggered him going into that.
Yes.
And then at some point you get to this point where it shifts and being okay, like she isn't the trigger that makes me go there. She is what pulls me out of it. And so it's like, and you even saw that at one point when he was in his big Onyx Storm there at the end, like her saying I love you for a split second clicks him out of it just a little bit, but he doesn't react quick enough in order to fully pull himself out of it. Do you notice how he tried to scramble to grab that, but he didn't react quick enough to get it, or he wasn't strong enough to get it at that point. Like, I think it would be cool if we see him go fully bad, and we have to get to this moment, like this Mustafar moment, where she and him are faced to fight each other, and she has to fully pull him out of it. Like, to fight him, to pull him out of it. Like, I think
that could be cool.
And like,
I think the one concern I have with all of that is like the cliche thing that like true love saves everything, and it's like, oh, okay, it's like your love for her.
I'm fully I'm along with I'm along with the other theorists that they're gonna die for each other at the end. They're not gonna live at the end of this series. Like, I'm convinced that they're like the only way. Like, I think the only way, because he even mentioned her at one point, and I think it's kind of foreshadowing that. I think it could be foreshadowing of, like, Violet's going to have to kill him. Is going to have to, because he said she's the only person that could kill him. And that she's going to have to kill him in order to stop him. But in killing him, it's also going to kill her. And they're going to go together.
I don't know if
but it's also a romantasy, so it's like, I can't see them dying at the end. And it also be marketed as a romantasy. So I don't know.
In my mind, when he turns Venom, I don't know if his bond with Sagal is going to stay. And I guess in my mind, it's one of those things where it's like he can survive without Sagal because he's Venom, and so if she kills him, it's not going to kill her. Is kind of where my mind, I think, is kind of thinking. But it's kind of like, I don't know where.
Well, I would think I would have thought that after he fully given that time, that his bond with her would have broken right after that. If that was really truly the case.
Depends on what happened. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of
because she said that. Yeah. Well, and she said that because him and Sagal are still interacting with each other, and she even said, "Well, you haven't seen yourself. You haven't seen the fact that your eyes are red, or have the red veins like her lightning."
Well, I didn't mean necessarily now, but I think eventually, like, if one of them isn't going to die, like, if you want to keep them alive, like, that would be the way to. One of the ways to do it is either don't kill him, or killing him doesn't kill Violet. Like, I don't. And the weird thing is, like, on the one hand, it seems like romantasy, but like when you think about Fourth Wing, if you take out the romance with Xaden, there's still a plot left.
That's fair.
Same with Iron Flame. I think Onyx Storm's the first one that the romance took a front seat, whereas the other ones, it's a fantasy first with a romantic subplot, and so I don't know if it actually counts as romantasy or not, and therefore it could have a tragic ending. But, like, is it actually romantasy now that it's taken a front seat? And so, like, if you take the romance out of Onyx Storm, there's a whole lot missing. You see what I'm saying? And so it could be romantasy, which means it wouldn't end in a tragic ending. Or if it did, I don't think people would be happy about it. So I don't know. Like, and I don't know. Like, I don't prefer one over the other, but it's just, I don't know. I don't see what you would do.
I don't see her building up their relationship only to just break their relationship apart and have only one live at the end. But at the same time, I know a lot of people, some people wouldn't be happy with this cliche everyone lives ending, but at the same time, people won't be happy with both of them dying, so I'm like, well, how do we end this series then? Like, if we don't want them to die, but we don't want them to live, but we don't want one of them to live and the other one die, like, it's like, I don't know how does that, I was like, that's where Miley is like, how does this series end then? Somebody's not going to be happy with this ending, because, like, we got...
Like, logically, is that he's going to get cured at the end and it's going to be fine. Like, I'm not saying that's what I want. I'm just saying that's what I think is going to happen based on the fan base.
There's a lot of people, a lot of fans are taking the Jasenia comment at the beginning of each of these, literally. That she's the one that lives and is telling their children, her, like, Xaden and Violet's child, their story. I've heard that theory several times, that they think that
Yeah.
the two of them are going to die, and that their child is going to be, that Jasenia is going to be telling their child the story.
Well, I get that she's telling the story. I don't know if it's necessarily their child, but I know it's.
I mean, I've heard that one, or I've
documented,
just
so it
heard
could
that
be anything.
she's recording, she's keeping record of the story at the end, and that they end up. I don't know. I've just heard that several times, like, and like more than just once or twice, but
There's a lot of theories going on. So some of my final thoughts, like the ending, like I was just typing questions left and right. It's like, what happened? Why did she erase her memory? Why did she choose Imogen to erase it? What else could have happened? Why is it so secretive? How intense is it going to be with them, the college, trying to kill Violet to get to Xaden? Like, that's going to be a really tense plot line. Missing dragon eggs and dead riders and dead dragons. Like, what is going on? Do we think it's Xaden? What is happening? Like, who is Xaden's brother? Which we already went over those theories. Xaden turning, how he's advanced to the new rank, and how the general betrayed them. General Panchek. Or whatever his name was, betrayed them.
Yeah.
And then how he's now loyal to the Venom guy. Braille or whatever his name was. So like the ending just left so many questions, and like I don't like, it was just like I had to write down all of my questions, because it's like we don't know. We'll have to wait till the next book, which is like forever from now. But
a couple years, I think, at least.
Definitely had a lot. Like I was just like, to have anticipated it and have so many theories and questions going into it, and then being so excited and then reading it and enjoying it. Like, it's been the first book that I've actually like done that with, and then to have it finished and now I'm anticipating the next one. It's the first time I've done that, so it's really fun to actually like, okay, now I have theories about this, and like you know, just getting to have so many questions and thoughts and theories and stuff like that has been fun. Like, it's like the experience of it has been fun. So,
yeah, for sure.
But kind of seems like we've reached kind of a...
Yeah. I think I'm... Yeah.
My phone is dying. I'm at 30%. It goes down by like 10% every like 10 minutes, so I'm just like, ah!
Oh, so we've got an hour and 15 minutes in, so I'm surprised it's at where it's at.
Yeah.
All right, well,
it's hanging on.
Let us know
for dear life.
your thoughts on the story. How did you feel about the ending? Were you satisfied with the book? Were you expecting things, and did you get those things that you were expecting?
Did you rate it?
Yeah, rating,
yeah, what did you
all
guys
those
rate
things.
It? Yep.
And then be on the lookout for our shorts on our next reads and how things are going and what we're gonna do next.
Yep.
All right. Don't forget to subscribe. Discord link. We're gonna try to keep the Discord link updated in the YouTube description, like the bio, like channel bio. So if you go to click on our actual channel, you'll find the link at the top, and we'll try to keep the link updated so you can actually join the Discord. I forgot that the Discord link expires after so long, so we'll try to keep that updated. So if you want to join the Discord, you can. Yep. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.